Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brandon at Performance Transmissions, and today in this segment we'll be going over the highlights in the Sonnax Performance Pack, as well as some Transgo products. We'll be setting up our second and fourth servo and adjusting our band clearance and installing pinless accumulators and modifications to the valve body. I hope you enjoy it. Next, let's go ahead and set up our servo. We are using the Sonnax second Corvette servo and our fourth servo with D-rings. Now I've taken the seals out of the second servo and the fourth servo so we can set our end clearance on the band. The performance pack comes with a new spring, and I just take a C-clamp to compress that down to install the spring. All right, then we're going to take the pin. I've already removed the pin because I removed it from the second servo. And we're going to replace the spring take the pin and install it into the servo. In the correct orientation, install our new spring, the OE washer, and the OE E-clip. Then the apply ring. Then in the fourth servo comes with a 3/8 washer to install. And then our spring. And then we'll install it into the case. Let's get this set up. Install the spring and then our servo. retaining clip. Make sure the ring is fully seated. I'm going to set up a dial indicator. The clutch or the band clearance is between 75 and 120 thousandths. I'm going to set the band clearance for this one specifically as close as I can to 75. Setting 0 the dial indicator. Taking press in on the servo. I'm going to set up a dial indicator. The clutch or the band clearance is between 75 and 120 thousandths. I'm going to set the band clearance for this one specifically as close as I can to 75. Setting 0 the dial indicator. Taking press in on the servo. Now I've only got 20 thousandths clearance. So we need to take and grind the pin. All right, now that we've got our pin ground down, let's see where we're at. At about 78. After we made our adjustments to our servo pin, we will install our D-ring seals. A tight fit, good. Some lube on our seals. Forget the 3/8 washer. Our fourth servo. Now, there is that slight clearance in between the second servo and the fourth servo. If you want to tighten that clearance, this is what the ring was for in the Transgo kit. And that will tighten your adjustment. Install our spring first. Then the second servo. I'm going to install a spacer from the Transgo kit and the fourth servo. We'll make sure that retaining ring is all the way seated. If the retaining ring is not all the way seated, it can break the case. And I have seen it happen. All right. Looks good, feels good. Now we have our new 3/4 capsule, and in the performance pack comes a second servo release check valve. With this check valve, first you want to remove the O-ring from it. And check the fitness in the case. If it is loose, then add the O-ring. Feels pretty tight to me. What am I missing? And we'll drive it in. Take a 3/8 pin and drive it flush with the deck of the case. Just like that. All right, at this point I like to go ahead and install the wiring harness into the case because I'm not going to be flipping the case one way or the other after this. We have a new harness with new lockup valve, lockup solenoid. And this harness is for non-input speed sensor. With pressure manifold switch. There are 3 different harnesses that you can order. Make sure you're ordering the correct one. Install our shift rod, part pole actuator, arm, rooster cone, and bracket. On the shift rod, these lands here, I grind them down before I remove it from the case, otherwise it will damage the case and create burrs and possibly a hydraulic leak. And it makes it a lot easier to take out and reinstall. It should slide in just easy. I'll take the rooster cone and the park rod actuator. Slide it in, take and place our nut. And tighten our nut down. Just hand tight. Install our spacer clip. All right. And our bracket. You want to hand tighten these, especially the one at the bottom. You can get it off center and cross thread it. Do not use any power tools to do this. Taking a lock, the park pawl arm. Start threading in our bolt. And take and torque these down to 24 foot-pounds. All right, with that set, we're gonna go ahead and install our 3/4 accumulator. So 1, 2, forward. I'm missing something out of the kit. Hang on, I'll be right back. All right, I found the rest of the parts to the kit. I had a extra second servo release valve. I was unsure if I had opened the kit and set it to the side. Now all of the accumulators in this transmission, I'm using pinless accumulators. You take and put the it's the D-ring. There is a Teflon D-ring or a Teflon ring that will go towards the bottom side of the accumulator. Just carefully walk it over and install it. And our sealing ring on the top side. Now in the case where the pin used to be located at, I'm going to take and drive the largest of all of the check balls that come in this kit. I got one sticking. I'll take the largest check ball, drive it into the case, and then stake it so it does not fall out. There. We have our purple spring to install. I like to turn mine upside down to block fourth clutch oil for a firmer fourth gear apply. Now when you install that, make sure it does not go above the raised deck height of the case. Install the check balls supplied. These check balls are a lot lighter and they do not beat the separator plate like the metal check balls. All right, let's go into the valve body. The valve body section, I've got all the valves laid out. This is our three-four signal and clutch select valve and spring. I will be installing new Sonnax end plugs with O-rings. With the O-ring in first. And their retaining clips. Okay, in this section, what I'm going to be doing with the converter regulator valve, it comes with a set spring so we do not overpressurize the converter. We're going to limit the converter pressure to 100 psi. I'm going to install the spring first and then the valve. And then our end plug. This is a drop-in valve. If there's an issue with a hydraulic leak, you'll have to re-ream it and it will come with a separate valve. Vacuum testing will be required to determine this issue. All right. Next in valve and end plug. The next section, I'm going to install our AFL valve. The kit that was installed prior has a white spring that has been added to the AFL valve spring section. We're going to leave that in this unit. Okay, after you install the AFL valve and the springs, we're going to install our last Sonnax inboard plug and O-ring. Make sure the clip's all the way in. Now there are two open sections in the valve body that you can incorrectly put it into this section, but it goes to the one furthest back. Alright, we're going to move on to our 1-2 accumulator valve. We're going to use the original spring in this unit. The spring that came in it was in the Transgo kit, was the white spring. If you want to use the white spring, you can use the white spring, but for the purposes of using the performance pack, we're going to be using a shim. Install our OE spring. Put a little bit of trans gel on that so it stays in. And initially start to install the sleeve. In the kit comes a spacer shim to install in the farthest section. Going to install the sleeve. And our roll pin. Make sure the roll pin is flush or below the deck of the valve body. And the shim does not fall out. Next valve. It's our 2-3 control valve or shift solenoid B. Next, our spring for our 1-2 control valve or shift select valve, should I say, for shift solenoid A. We're going to install our new shift solenoids. All right, the next valve that I'm going to install is the forward abuse valve. and the spring. And I will install this little spacer ball that came in with the Transgo kit. So I'm doing a little bit of a mixture of the Sonnax Performance Pack plus a little bit of stuff from the Transgo kit. And we are using new Sonnax in reverse and forward abuse bore plugs. Line up the hole. And the roll pin goes into the center of the abuse plug. We'll put the next valve in just a minute because we need to put our pinless forward accumulator. Now the pinless forward accumulator takes 2 check balls to drive into where you remove the pin that the factory accumulator piston rides into. We're going to take and drive 2 check balls into it. All the way down. And then install our second one. Then we take and stake the bore. Do the same thing with our pinless forward accumulator piston with the Teflon seal on the bottom and our rubber seal on the top. Install the piston with the flat face facing down. You're going to use the OE spring on top. Next, we're going to install our low control valve with our new yellow spring. a retaining plate, and 3/8 millimeter bolts. Torque them down to 100 inch-pounds or 8 foot-pounds. Next, we're going to install our 3/2 downshift valve with new spring. The overhaul kit comes with a new spring. This one is the one from Transgo. I like it a lot better. I did make a mistake with the reverse abuse valve. I did not install it into the case. Or into the valve body. This is our 3-2 downshift valve. Install the reverse abuse valve and our spring. A new abuse plug. Install our 3-2 downshift solenoid. And then our pressure control solenoid. Now the pressure control solenoid, if you try to install it, there are two sections that you can install the bracket in, the hold down bracket into. If you put it in the wrong one, it'll be raised too high and you cannot put the pan on the transmission. So if you have it straight up and down, it's not going to work. It has to be off to the side. And we'll torque that down to 100 inch-pounds as well. All right, we're done with our modifications to the valve body. I'm going to install our check balls here, there, there, here, there, and there. put a little bit of transgel to put it in, hold it in. I'd like to take a razor blade and take off the excess. All right, we're going to take the valve body and set it to the side. Install my manual valve. All right, next we're going to work on our 1-2 accumulator valve and spring. With this being a 2003 model, 2001 up 1-2 accumulators, when using the performance pack, comes with 2 springs, a shim that is required for 2001 and later, your sealing rings, and your cushion spring. This will allow the piston to be fully seated to the top on the return. The cushion the return so it does not beat into the separator plate. And my piston. Piston or seal. We're going to take and drive the pin out. And install the last check ball to seat and seal the accumulator body. drive it all the way down to the bottom. And then take and stake. So we don't lose it. All right, next we're going to take and put our spacer in our two springs. We'll lubricate the seals on the accumulator piston. Install the piston, just like that. We have our cushion spring on top. All right, let's talk about our separator plate. I am using the Transgo plate. It is 46-96. Modifications we're going to make to the plate. I'm going to start with this section right here. I'm going to chamfer this hole is right below this square and this section of the plate. We're going to take and block that hole for pulse width modulation. That way we are using a stall converter. It is going to be a 245 millimeter converter, 2800 stall. Going to chamfer the edge just a little bit on both sides. And install our aluminum plug. Feels pretty smooth. Take and file it down so it's not raised up. All right, the next section's in separator plate. We're going to change to drill out to 93 thousandths. Identify all the spots. That one's different. We're at 3/2 shift to 93 thousandths. Our second clutch. All right, so far we have oversized our 3/2, second, fourth, and third clutch apply holes to 93 thousandths. And we are going to take and enlarge our, this is our AFL balance oil. We're going to drill it out to 52 thousandths. Sure we don't have any burrs or raised edges. All right, on our separator plate when choosing the gaskets, this section right here and this section right here, earlier style had a round hole, the new style has a square hole. So you have round hole, square hole, as well as our gasket, round hole, square hole. It's our valve body side. We have our check ball in, our accumulator in, our harness installed, and our shift linkage. So our gasket, then our plate, and then our valve body gasket. All right, let's get our plate and our gaskets lined up. Alignment bolt here and here. our plate in the rear section. If you leave these bolts loose, it will cause a hydraulic leak in the low and reverse clutch and cause no motion. You won't have forward or drive. Forward or reverse, sorry. More than likely you'll burn the reverse section, you'll burn it up trying to go in reverse. Tighten those down to 100 inch pounds. Remove our alignment bolts. Install your manual valve linkage. Let's grab the valve body. We'll grab our 8mm bolts first. Here, here, and here. And we'll start our two shortest 10mm bolts here and here. Then our next size up 10mm bolts here, 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 this location, this location, this location, there, and then there. So they're all free and nothing's binding up. We'll take and install our pressure manifold switch and go ahead and get that lined up. And our last two 8mm bolts. Then we're going to take and install our 1-2 accumulator. Two short 10mm bolts and the longest of the 10mm bolts. Start from the center out. Start with our 10mm bolts at 100 inch-pounds. And our 8mm bolts. Install our detent spring. It's a 13mm bolt. Okay, then we're ready to install our harness. And last, our PWM solenoid. We'll grab our new filter. We're going to change the seal. This is a seal remover tool that I've always used. It is a Mac Tool S120P. It's easy to go down inside, get underneath. And pull it out. Now I'll take a 19mm socket to install the new one. We'll lubricate our filter. And I use a fiber pan gasket. I don't ever use the rubber one from the auto parts store that comes with those filters. It just expands and it doesn't hold up. It will leak. And then install our pan. I install my pan bolts at 18 foot-pounds. See. All that's left is the front seal retainer and our adapter housing. Now before I go, I had to pull the valve body back apart because I noticed that I forgot to install 2 filters. Here's the original separator plate. Position for the small filter is in this location, and the other filter is in this location. So I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. Remember to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell notification. We'll see you next time.